time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation.
What are you people? On dope?
Where you can toke.
I inhaled frequently.
Or you can talk.
I experimented with marijuana and didn't inhale.
Or you can toke and talk.
10 federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
While we talk about toke on Toker Talk Radio.
So, by the way, when it comes to pot, if you're 40 years old, you live in a log cabin in Oregon, you got 12 giant pot plants in your backyard, have a ball.
Live from beautiful Portland, Oregon at Rolla J Studios.
Hey, this is great.
Just not cannabis.
Plus your calls live at 971-533-7111.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to the Enema Man and Snoopy Poop Dog.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel? Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
Holland, is it real? Don't tease me.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years.
And now, here's your host, the guru of ganja graphics, the sativa statistics, and the worst nightmare of a reefer mad prohibitionist. A polite, perspicacious, productive pothead with a propensity for PowerPoint. Radical Russ Belville.
Cartoon laugh button working.
Lever made us feeling giggly.
Yeah. But nothing is as good as the Wilhelm scream button. Love the Wilhelm scream. So, those of you who aren't Foley geeks, let me tell you about the Wilhelm scream. The Wilhelm scream is a sound effect. It's this one. And it's one of the most famous sound effects of all time. If you go watch Indiana Jones, Star Wars, you just start watching, pick a movie. Watch a movie that has some scene where somebody might be screaming.
Usually, isn't it like an MGM kind of thing?
Yeah, usually, yeah, old westerns, sci-fi, cop shows.
Yep.
It's almost like when you hear it, it's like, yay, Wilhelm scream.
Death scream, basically.
Yeah, I love the Wilhelm scream. So, welcome to Toker Talk Radio. I want to thank Skunk from Hemp Beach TV for being on the show. And I forgot to ask him whether we'll see him in Denver for 420. I don't know if he's still in the chat room. He can let us know. But we are getting ready for Denver 420. We're getting ready for... I'm actually going to Idaho this weekend. After the Herb Thrasher show, going to head out to Idaho. It's my dad's 71st birthday this Sunday. 71.
Wow.
How do you wow, 71. That's just amazing to me, especially knowing my dad's life. I'm sure he's as astounded as I am. Like, I made it to 71? Really? Amazing. Hey, let's give shout outs here to some of our chatters in the chat room right now. Of course, Almost 50's hanging out. I see Cousin Kenny. Eric Greenbud's out there. Georgia Mom for Marijuana. We were just talking about Florida. We can talk about Georgia, too. Hemp Beach still in the house. Kaylee Austin, big supporter. Thank you, Kaylee, for being here. And Red Eyes is in the chat room. Hi, Red Eyes.
Yeah, I'm here.
Rolla J. Hey, we heard from Rolla J today that he may be able to make it out to Denver for 420.
Oh.
He might be getting a flight out there, so we'll see how that goes. Because I know George Mom's going to be there, and Big Daddy Fink's going to be there, and Ganja John's going to be here. Ganja John hit me up today wondering where I was staying. So it's all coming together.
They're all they're kind of like extended family reunions, They are.
It's a lot of fun. And so we'll be doing that. And also, got to give you updates here on the Effin' Normal Tour. I just put out a blast today on Facebook and the webs and all the blogs that I can post to. I am looking for sponsors for the Effin' Normal Tour. Now, I just was looking on like used cars, because I've always wanted to have a travel van that I could take and just do a show in, right? And we found this thing, an old TriMet,
It's a short bus.
I hate to use the term short bus.
It's called a lift.
Yeah,
what they call
short bus makes you think of like the old short bus, right? But this is more like You know those tall, like van type of things that pick you up at the airport?
Yeah, airport transport.
It's that size of thing, right? So it's that size of thing, and it runs on diesel, which is great because we can get it converted for bio, yeah. And it's got a wheelchair lift, and so it's completely ADA accessible because when I do this show, I want to be able to have everybody on it, right?
Of course.
And so what we'll do, and it's going to cost like a couple, $3-4 to get this thing. And then we want to get it vinyled up with Russ Belville Show logos, 420 Radio logos, and the logos of our sponsors.
Yeah.
So here's the deal, folks. If you got a company and you want to have your logo seen in some non-traditional marijuana states, like, yeah, sure, you could advertise at the KushCon and the Hemp Expo and the Cannabis Cup, but yeah, that's Colorado, Washington, Oregon, California.
Yeah.
That's pretty saturated. You want to get seen in Wyoming? You want to get seen in Albuquerque, New Mexico? You want to get seen in Tulsa, Oklahoma? We're going to be doing Midwestern, Southeastern kind of shows, right? And imagine the 420 Radio fully festooned travel studio, fully vinyled out, right? With 420 Radio, with pot leaves, with Russ Belville Show on it, and your company logo on it, pulling into Tulsa, Oklahoma, setting up and doing a show.
Well, or even just rolling down the highway. You know? That's advertising right there, buddy.
You think
a rolling billboard.
Get mentioned on the evening news, perhaps, all sorts of possibilities.
Tweet it out, maybe.
So check that out. You can go to our contact page at 420radio.org/contact, and there's a subject there just waiting for you. I want to sponsor the 420 Radio Effin' Normal Tour. And not only will we have the van, the big rolling studio all painted up with your logo and our logos and everything, we're also going to have one of those big photo banners so that when we set up at the gigs with the F&As and people want to take pictures with the band, they want to take pictures with me and stuff, the photo banner will be behind it. Your logo will be on it with all those, repeating logos and stuff. People are going to take pictures of that. They're going to put it on Facebook. They're going to put it on Instagram. It's going to get spread all over the place. So let me know. 420radio.org/contact. Help sponsor the Effin' Normal Tour. We take off in June. When we come back, we'll have more here on 420radio.org, plus your phone calls at 971-533-7111. Stick around.
The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com. Hi, this is Dan Michaels. If you're looking for professional voice talent for your commercial or podcast, I'm your man. Visit danmichaelsaudio.com for more information.
After the hour here at 420 Radio. It's Toker Talk Radio right now, and wanted to talk a little bit about Montel Williams. It's going to be good. Get the music here. So, Montel Williams was apparently on Huffington Post Live the other day. Today, I guess. Tuesday. That's today. So he was on Huffington Post Live, and I just want to play this segment that he had talking about medical marijuana, because I have a opinion on this that you might find a little surprising. Let me get the window adjusted here so you can actually see Montel while we do this one. One moment. Specific area. There you are. And there you are. Montel Williams, take it away.
You've been an advocate of medical marijuana, which
Yes.
is now legal in 17 states.
Sure.
And I just wanted to know, personally, I'm for legalizing marijuana in general, but why has marijuana, I know it's helped you with neuropathic pain, but why is it so important to you to advocate for this?
Because it is just like any other plant-based medicine on this planet. It's a plant-based medicine. And because of some really, again, another ignorant period of time in American history where we had a guy who ran around the world making the world vilify a plant so that no one would research it, there's so much research that's now been done, even sponsored research by the United States. Mm-hmm. You know, the United States has paid for research in places like Israel, places around the world on marijuana. They gave Dr. Meshulam out of Israel their highest award last year from NIDA for his research in discovering a chemical. Now, so why is it so important? That medicine is relief to some people for multiple different disorders. There are chemicals inside that plant that we are just now starting to discern. THC, CBD, CBN1, CBN2. There are terpenes. There are chemicals that, when put together, just like tamoxifen and just like an aspirin, which comes from the willow tree, we can make a medication that can help bring some relief to people, and that's what's required. Now, you just said it. You're for in favor of legalizing completely. And that may be true. Go right ahead and do so. But for someone like me who has MS, I need to have a quality medication that isn't tainted, that wasn't grown in Mexico, that wasn't grown with paraquat or something else on it. So I'm still going to advocate whether you legalize in all 50 states. I want a pharmaceutical company to step up to the plate and do what's right and give people a medication that works.
Now, here's my thing with that. It's all well and good that Montel Williams brings this up, and it's going to get a lot of people to pay attention to it that might not have paid attention to it. But he so easily dismisses the role of the demonization of the recreational users in preventing the medical users from getting what he's asking for. That's my biggest problem with Montel Williams. And this goes back to the normal convention we had in Denver where he showed up and was so adamantly, I'm not for legalizing marijuana. I'm not for don't legalize marijuana for recreational use. But for us patients, right? Sorry, you patients won't get what you need until it's legalized for those of us that are healthy. It's never going to come fast enough. You're always going to have to jump through some hoop. This is what has to change, Montel. And yeah, you're right. One man, Harry J. Anslinger, went around this country. He was our federal drug czar, and they didn't call it a drug czar back then, but basically he was in charge of our marijuana policies from the era of FDR through JFK, 1937 to 1962, 25 years, a quarter century. Harry J. Anslinger went around the world and demonized the plant. But guess what, Montel? He wasn't demonizing the plant. He was demonizing the people that used it. People whose complexion looked a lot more like yours than mine, Montel. And if you can't see that, and you can't see that the racism behind this and the demonization of the people who use it, regardless of for what reason, if you can't see that that's what's keeping you from getting the multiple sclerosis medicine you need, then you need to come to your senses and get behind the fight for full legalization. Marijuana is fungible. It's a plant-based medicine. People who need aspirin would never be able to get it if willow trees were contraband. Okay? So you want to make that comparison. There's your comparison, Montel. Sometimes. Now, another story that was interesting to me, Illinois' medical marijuana bill looks like it might have the votes to get through the House finally. Representative Lou Lang was interviewed by the Pekin Times and says about 1 or 2 votes short in the House of Representatives. Now, here's another example of this box canyon I've talked about before. This is the natural effect of trying to maintain a separate track for medical users versus recreational users. This is the thing. So long as we demonize the recreational users, and so long as we deny legal access to marijuana to 90% of the people who use it, they're always going to find whatever sliver of a loophole they can get through to be legal. This is something I don't think our opponents really get, is that the people, they make this concern about the fraud of medical marijuana, or people that might be, just potheads just trying to get a card. These are people desperately trying to follow a law, desperately trying to be legal people, to be law-abiding citizens.
After they fought to make those laws for themselves.
Yeah. It's like the abuse that we're talking about is people wanting to be left alone from police, to be given some privacy, to be given the same rights as a beer drinker.
Well, how dare you, want us not to tell you what to do?
Yeah. It's frustrating.
We know best. We've got the, money and guns and, other crap that,
that says we are right.
It's supposed to be important in this country. What are you people doing?
So this Illinois bill is another example of this box canyon. And the box canyon idea is this: so long as you keep fighting for marijuana to be medical, marijuana is going to get more medical. And this effect of people that are going to try to slip through whatever loopholes is going to force the people who continue to make more marijuana only medical to write tighter bills with fewer loopholes. And tighter bills with fewer loopholes just means more patients who do legitimately qualify not being able to get through the programs. This one that they're doing in Illinois is a 4-year trial program.
Yeah. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
They'll have a sunset on it, right? So you could be a sick person. Yeah. You could have some terrible, let's say IBS, let's say Crohn's.
And you're legal for, a couple of years. Maybe it takes you a year and a half to jump through all the hoops to get the doctor's, records to the right people. And then all of a sudden you finally got your first grow going. And, oh, look, you got a harvest and that one went great. And you found something that works for you. And, what's that? Oh, they didn't vote it back in? Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, so now I'm, for the stuff that I've had growing here for the last year and a half, I'm a criminal.
Right.
So.
And imagine the guy who's got Crohn's. Let's say, just pick Crohn's. What the hell? Guy's got Crohn's disease. Been living in agony for most of his life. Can't digest. Terrible bathroom trips. All the things that come with Crohn's. Pain, nausea, can't eat, all that shit. And he's been law-abiding. He hasn't used it.
Wow. Libramator.
Scared the hell out of me, Libramator.
Stop that. Little Libramator.
There is something weird going on with Libramator lately. Okay.
Her tags are all out of whack. I don't know.
We'll fix that in a second. But anyway, it scared me to death.
Golly,
but suppose you're a law-abiding citizen, you got Crohn's, you've never used marijuana. Illinois passes this bill that it's legal, and now you've got Crohn's and you qualify. You're like, well, now that it's legal, I'll give it a try. Let's see what happens. And to your delight, it's a miracle. Oh my God, this is the best medicine I've ever had. I can actually eat stuff. I'm not in spastic pain all the time. And like you say, you do it for 2, 3, 4 years. Maybe it's not politically popular. They drop the bill again.
Mm-hmm.
Now what? You're either going to continue to be a criminal.
Yeah.
You're going to continue doing what you're doing, living in good health and be a criminal. Or what? Go back to being in pain?
Yeah, or your third option, what? You're going to uproot your entire existence and your plants and all that and move to a state that's a little bit, more logical with their laws. Very few options exist at that point. It's ridiculous. They're trying to take,
Yeah, and Ray in the chat room says, medical is our Trojan horse. Well, if it's a Trojan horse, it's made of glass. Because people can see what's coming, right? The whole Trojan horse analogy was that, we were getting a gift and we didn't know that the hidden soldiers inside were going to do something bad inside our keep. But in the case of medical marijuana, they see
right through it. It's a glass horse.
They can see what we're doing. They see that, yes, you're bringing medical marijuana in so you can legalize. So why don't we just legalize? Why don't we just say that that's what we're going to do? I think the medical argument is just about done. I think it's time in America to start saying just, enough. Enough with trying to separate who's healthy enough to put in a cage and who's sick enough to have compassion for, and just end this ridiculous bifurcation of medical versus recreational, and just treat us all equally no matter how we use the plant. That's the only thing that's ever going to make any sense. speaking of using the plant.
And speaking of the sense,
you boys want to get high?
I would love to get high, Towdy Jr. High.
Be right back.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would sell you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
Please stop now.
Yeah, oh, Zion know me again, yo. Roll ya, put me wrestler around yo.
Let him bring in the beat.
Adam Hand of Handmade Apparel produces quality custom designs for t-shirts, hats, and other apparel. Handmade Apparel is the official design shop for 420 Radio, The Russ Belville Show, Ganja John, and Cascadia Concentrates, among many clients who rely on Adam Hand for everything from short-run custom projects to full-run clothing lines. Adam's meticulous designs are individually crafted and screened in vibrant high-definition color. Visit handmadeapparel.biz to browse the selection of handmade gear or to get a personal quote for your own designs. Handmade Apparel, a proud supporter of 420radio.org.
Let him bring in the beat.
After 4 o'clock here in the Pacific time zone. That's Hanging with the Vipers by Broken Arrow. I was looking up some other backgrounds on this story, the Supreme Court story, because I wanted to talk a little bit more about it. It's such a great ruling. And one of the things that's kind of throwing people off about this is the fact that it kind of breaks that typical conservative liberal Supreme Court thing that most people think of.
Yeah, most people think, oh, Supreme Court, that something marijuana comes up there, they're just going to knock it down,
Yeah.
And
typically, you would have...
Especially when it's in the favor of the cops.
Right. And typically, you'd have Scalia, Thomas, Alito, Roberts, as usually considered the conservatives. And then you'd have Sotomayor and Kagan and Ginsburg and Stephen Breyer as the liberals. And then Anthony Kennedy is normally the swing vote, right? And that's typically how most these cases go down. But in this case, Scalia and Thomas were on our side, and Alito and Roberts were on the other side. And Stephen Breyer, who's normally liberal, was with the cops on this one, that they should be able to use the drug doc. So it was a really weird situation here.
But more of the Democrats saying no. going against us, right? Is what you're saying?
No, we got a 5-4 decision.
Okay.
What I'm saying is the 5-4 decision was authored by 2 conservatives and 3 liberals.
Oh.
And then the opposition was 2 conservatives and 2 liberals. So you can't call this a conservative liberal thing. It really kind of broke.
The flavors all over the place.
Yeah, broke with what the way it would usually go down. Now, the way that this broke down it's very interesting, because if you read what the minority said, because they issue these opinions, and Scalia writes the majority opinion, and then someone will write the minority opinion on this. The dissenting justices were the Chief Justice John Roberts, Stephen Breyer, who's typically liberal, Kennedy, who's typically the swing vote, and Alito, who's typically conservative. And Alito, writing for the minority, said, "It's not trespassing when a mail carrier comes on a porch for a brief period, and that includes, quote, police officers who wish to gather evidence against an occupant," end quote. Alito also said, according to the court, however, the police officer in this case, Detective Bartlett, committed a trespass because he was accompanied during his otherwise lawful visit to the front door of a respondent's house by his dog Frankie, whereas the authority evidencing such a rule. Alito said that the court's ruling stretches expectations of privacy too far. I'm sorry, let me say that again. Alito said that the court's ruling stretches expectations of privacy too far. Quote,
expectations of privacy.
Quote, "A reasonable person understands that odors emanating from a house may be detected from locations that are open to the public, and a reasonable person will not count on the strength of those odors remaining within the range that, while detectable by a dog, cannot be smelled by a human," end quote. Wow. Alito is basically saying, come on, folks, you know that there's no such thing as a smell-proof house, and that there's no way you can tell whether a smell is going to be small enough to not be detected by a human. Therefore, if only a drug dog detects it, it's okay. Now, of course, Scalia shot this down when he started talking about that it's not the problem of... See, let me get to the original case. In the original case, this guy was named Joelis Jardines. They went to his house. The cops were there. They didn't have a warrant, but the cops were searching for evidence, right? So the cops go to his house to talk to the guy. The cop that went there with his drug dog, right? And as soon as he went to the door, the drug dog sat, which is their little indication that, oh, there's pot here. And dogs, he's like, I'm a good dog, right? So he sits down and to alert that there's pot there, right? And so they went in, and I'm trying to find the details. Here it is. Yeah, okay, so it was December 5th, 2006. They were doing surveillance on the guy's house. The detective arrived with his drug dog, and they went up, and the dog sat down. That sniff was used to get a search warrant. When they did the search warrant, they found Jardines there trying to escape out the back door. They pulled 179 live plants from his house, and 179 plants. So this is Florida, right? This is like go to prison forever, Florida. 179 live plants. And he was also stealing electricity as well.
Oh, that's
trial
smart.
Judge threw out the evidence because he said the search was no good. The Supreme Court, an appeals court reversed it. The Florida Supreme Court reversed that, and then that's what it led to our Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, the U.S. Supreme Court has allowed drug dog sniffs in other major cases, however. The court allows drug dog sniffs during routine traffic stops, on airport luggage, package in transit, right? So just about everywhere else a drug dog could catch you outside of your home, perfectly constitutional. But as far as your home, they've set up a specific rule here. And Justice Kagan also wrote in a concurring opinion, quote, "A drug detection dog is a specialized device for discovering objects not in plain view or plain smell. That device here was aimed at a home, the most private and inviolate, or so we expect, of all the places and things the Fourth Amendment protects. Was this activity a trespass? Yes, as the court holds today. Was it also an invasion of privacy? Yes, it was that as well." So there you go. And the term curtilage was used in the decision, and that's as Scalia points out, that's your porch, your yard, your property, right? And it's just amazing to me that cops don't understand, and some people can't understand that this is an invasion of privacy. just like if you put one of them shotgun mics up to a door and we're listening on as to what's going on inside. It's amazing that we got this decision. I'm just really amazed that we got this decision. There was also, let's see if I can get this here. The Seventh-day Adventists and even police to enter a person's property and knock on the door have that right, Scalia wrote. But introducing a trained police dog to explore the area around the home in hopes of discovering incriminating evidence is something else. To find a visitor knocking on the door is routine, if even sometimes unwelcome. To spot that same visitor exploring the front path with a metal detector or marching his bloodhound into the garden before saying hello and asking permission would inspire most of us to, well, call the police. So, yeah, that's just amazing that we are getting this decision. And we need to have more of these decisions. One of the Ohio State University College of Law professors wrote about this and says physical trespass as a form of government surveillance is falling by the wayside. Soon enough, we will have drones that can follow cars. This decision doesn't address that situation, or satellites, or going through third parties like OnStar to track a suspect. So this apparently, the way Scalia is breaking this down is he's saying when it comes to the Fourth Amendment, the home is first among equals. The right of a man to retreat into his own home and there be free from unreasonable government intrusion. That's the core of the Fourth Amendment to Scalia. So long as we're in our homes, looks like we've got a fighting chance here. And this is really good news to me to see this story because it recalls a time earlier in my life. I lived in Nampa, Idaho, the city of my birth, which is in Canyon County, Idaho. And this was where the sheriff there proposed taking drug-sniffing dogs and walking them through apartment complexes to sniff at the doors where there might be people smoking pot. And now, no possibility of that. Very good news for my friends in Nampa. All right. Time for us to take a little break. Kind of losing my voice a little bit. Hopefully not too much. We'll be right back with more talk here at Toker Talk Radio. If you've got a question, comment, or suggestion, just let us know in the chat room or visit our contact form, 420radio.org/contact.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Sergeant Craig Simpson. There are other tests which officers can perform that may help them to make this determination. Tests such as one called lack of convergence, which looks to see whether or not a person is able to cross their eyes. Marijuana is a drug that prevents a person from being able to cross their eyes. Interestingly, it is the only drug category that doesn't allow a person to cross their eyes and also does not allow the person to exhibit a jerkiness of their eye. So it's a unique drug in that sense that is the only one to provide that influence.
Big Daddy thinks.
Funky roller ring. Oh yeah, this is Big Daddy, and I'll be your freakazoid every Thursday night, right here at the Funky Roller Ring. Funky Roller Ring. 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific. Funky Roller Ring.
I like it like that.
everybody. Toker Talk Radio, 36 after the hour. That's music from B Foundation. The song is called Blaze. Speaking of Blaze, I am blazing up the NCAA tournament brackets. I am still kicking ass and taking names.
Still rocking that unknown sport thing there.
Yep. If you go to rad-r.us, 420 capital M Madness. I'll put that in the chat room. I know it's confusing. But that's our bracket challenge, and I'm currently leading with a score of 53 points. My next closest competitor is Herb Thrasher's wife, Kim, who is 9 points behind me. So, yeah, doing quite well on this. And not only that, my bracket is actually also entered in the nationwide competition. And in the nationwide competition, I am tied for 8th place.
Wow.
The top score, the number one guy in the whole country, has 55 points, and I have 53. And this number one guy's possible best score is 159. Mine's 169, so I could actually overtake him. There's only a few people in the country that have a better possible best score than me. The best possible score I see is 178, some guy who could possibly get, 182. One guy could actually finish with a 182. So I'm in pretty good shape. Now, I don't know what it wins, if anything. I don't know what it means, but it's kind of cool because I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
No clue. I just picked teams.
Excellent.
This sounds good. And I picked some really good ones, apparently. Other interesting news here. Check this out. And I'm surprised I forgot this anniversary. The Schaefer Commission report turned 40 just this week. Now, the Schaefer Commission report was was actually released in 1973. It was commissioned in 1972. President Richard Nixon, seeing that there was that all the hippie kids were using this marijuana, decided that he needed a study on it. Now, the history behind this, too, is very interesting because, marijuana had originally been prohibited by the Marijuana Tax Act, and then Dr. Timothy Leary in 1969 sued because the only way you could get the tax stamp was to take in marijuana that didn't have a tax stamp.
Yeah.
And then you're violating the law, so you had to incriminate yourself to follow the law, and that's against the Fifth Amendment, and he won. Mm-hmm. And so for a brief time there after that decision, marijuana was federally legal. Okay? Now, there were still laws in states that prevented it and stuff, but it was, this kind of caused a big concern for the government, for Nixon. He had this war on drugs, this tough stance he wanted to take. So he needed some evidence to back it up because now he was pushing this Controlled Substance Act. This comes around in 1970, and the Controlled Substances Act comes out, and marijuana was placed in Schedule 1, not for any legitimate scientific reason, just because it had always been banned, and the schedule that banned things was Schedule 1, therefore that's where marijuana belongs.
Yeah.
That's about the level of
logic,
thinking that went into it.
Mm-hmm.
So they put it into Schedule 1 in 1970, but then a lot of people start complaining, right? Because it's just beginning, in the early 70s, they're just starting to get the whiff of medical marijuana. We had Meshulam discovers THC in 1964. Throughout the late 60s, we start to get Dr. Grinspoon and some other people starting to make some noise about the medical properties. Going back to our earlier experience with the medical properties, all the way back to 1840 with Dr. O'Shaughnessy. And from 1840 to 1910, you could get all sorts of patent medicines and cannabis extracts and stuff just legally in the catalogs. Okay, so it wasn't like we didn't already know medicine, but yeah, by 1970, it was just starting to kind of have a resurgence that this was more than just smoking pot. It was mostly for cancer patients. The whole idea of, the cancer patient smoking a doobie is, that's probably the oldest modern era medical marijuana thing people think of, or glaucoma. That's the other
glaucoma,
one.
Yeah. Granny's glaucoma.
Granny's glaucoma medicine, right. Robert Randall ended up suing by 1978, right? But by 1970, you got the Controlled Substances Act. Marijuana is put into Schedule 1 just because it has to be banned. Mm-hmm. So Nixon needs something to back this up. Now, he knows, in fact, you can get this on the Nixon tapes. He says things like, what the Christ is the matter with the Jews, Bob? That's one of his lines. He's talking to Bob Haldeman. What the Christ is the matter with the Jews, Bob? Seems like every one of them out there is for the legalization of marijuana. and all sorts of things about mental health and pointy-headed liberals and
pointy-headed.
You got to listen to the Nixon tapes sometimes on drugs. It's amazing.
Oh, I try not to listen to things that are pure garbage.
That's true. But, so he wants to get some sort of evidence to back up this Controlled Substances Act, back up the idea of marijuana being Schedule 1. So he decides to put together this commission. He impanels this commission, the National Commission on Marijuana, to take a look at this. And he appoints Raymond P. Schaefer, who's a former governor of Pennsylvania, Republican, conservative. And when you go back to the Nixon tapes, you can actually hear him talking to Schaefer and expressing to him that this commission had better come out with some bad stuff about marijuana.
Yeah, you better have some results for us.
Exactly. I don't want to hear this come back and say something about legalizing, or, that was some of the lines.
Yeah, that we should flip our response, from 40 years ago,
So Schaefer, he's got this panel, got this commission of doctors and scientists, social policy experts, that does this exhaustive, one of the most exhaustive research studies on marijuana and its users taken to that date, right? The Fiorello-LaGuardia Commission back in the 40s, that was like New York, right? So they had done the study there. But as far as the whole United States goes, this Schaefer Commission report 40 years ago was one of the first ones to actually do a longitudinal, long-term, take a look at the whole country, the whole aspect of marijuana smoking. And despite Richard Nixon impaneling a conservative, despite pressuring him to come up with the worst things he could have to say about marijuana, Schaefer's commission came back 40 years ago and said it needs to be decriminalized.
Yep.
And Nixon took that report and threw it in the garbage pan.
Yep. The round file.
And that's the history there of the 40 years of the Schaefer Commission report. In case you just didn't know, now you know. So it's not as if our government hasn't known that the right answer is to not treat marijuana smokers like criminals. They've known it since 1973. Now, interestingly enough, 1 year later, in 1974, trials out of the University of Virginia discover that THC is beneficial in apoptosis for cancer cells. It tells cancer cells, it cuts off their blood supply to cancer cells and tells them to die, but doesn't tell the other cells around them to die.
Yeah, it tells them to stop replicating is what it does.
Yeah, stop reproducing.
Yeah, stop grabbing other healthy cells and turning them bad,
So, when you look at that early 70s, those first few years, 1970 to 1975, is where you can see most of the architecture of this drug war being set up. The denial of the obvious medical benefits, the ignorance, the purposeful ignorance of the facts of decriminalization and the people that use marijuana, that they're not any more harmful than, that they're not a huge harm to society. It's more harmful to ban it than to tolerate it. And in the second half of the 1970s, you get the opposite of that. You get Jimmy Carter campaigning in 1975 in Georgia, of all places, saying, I support the reducing penalties for marijuana. Running as a candidate for president and won with that. And 2 years later, in 1977, speaking in front of the Congress of the United States, saying, I support the reduction in penalty, decriminalization of marijuana to 1 ounce, that the penalties for the use of a drug should not be more devastating to an individual than the use of the drug itself. By 1978, you see Gallup polls that had taken marijuana legalization from 12% support in 1969 to 30% support in 1978. It's an amazing period of our history, because the entire drug war pendulum swing can be felt from 1970 to 1980. From Richard Nixon issuing public enemy #1, war on drugs, and throwing the Schaefer report away, through Jimmy Carter campaigning for marijuana decrim and calling for decrim at Congress, to the election of Ronald Reagan, just say no, and smoking one joint is equal to brain damage of being in an A-bomb blast on Bikini Atoll. The entire pendulum right there in the 70s. And while you're researching that 70s stuff, some of the best music ever written. Speaking of the best music ever written, this is the F&As. I'll be on tour with the FNAs this summer, starting in June. Check out thefnas.com. That's EFFINAYS, thefnas.com. We'll have all the information up there eventually. If you'd like to contribute or be a sponsor, visit our contact form. Let me know soon. We got to get this van painted. Stick around. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
And now, another episode of Cannabis Shakespearean Theatre. I'm your host, Leonard Pinth-Garnell III. Tonight we take a look at one of the finest works in the cannabis cinema, 1996's Half-Baked, starring David Chappelle, as interpreted by the Royal Shakespearean Cannabis Theatre Company. In this scene, Chappelle's character, Thurgood Marshall, has just admitted his addiction to cannabis to a room full of narcotics addicts. One addict, played in the film by Robert Saget and interpreted here by the Royal Company's Sir Frederick Farrach, takes umbrage at the suggestion.
I find preposterous the notion that you, sir, may be addicted to cannabis. In times previous, I have undertaken lubricious endeavours, most revolting and unbecoming of a proper gentleman, in my servitude to the wicked powder of the coca leaf. Lo, that is an addiction whose chains would bind Hercules. At any point in history, could one identify a moment in your life so sullied by your ignominy as a cannabis slave? Methinks not! Boo this man!
For Cannabis Shakespearean Theatre, I'm Leonard Pinth-Garnell III.
Leaning over this old guitar, my back is feeling sore, wondering what's in store for me. I never ever meant to make you cry, never got a chance to wipe a tear from your eye. I never got the chance, I was getting high. Feeding loose in these old blue jeans, forgot my number.
Marijuana is an addictive drug which produces in its users insanity, criminality, and death. Marijuana is the most violence-causing drug in the history of mankind. If the hideous monster Frankenstein came face-to-face with the monster of marijuana, he dropped dead from fright.
You know, it's not easy countering 7 decades of propaganda in a 2-hour show, but let's try. It's time for the Russ Belville Show's Reefer Madness Debunk.
All right, folks, to close out the show today, I've got a just fresh bouquet of Reefer Madness. This comes from Sue Rusche, the CEO of National Families in Action. And the terrible headline here is, marijuana legalization proponents deny health harms just like the tobacco industry did.
Yeah, we saw this coming.
Yeah.
Okay. We already saw this coming.
So here's how she opens. Sooner or later, marijuana legalization proponents will have to take responsibility for grossly misleading the public about the health harms of pot. To persuade people to legalize, they have to perpetuate the myth that marijuana is harmless. Sound familiar? Denying harm is a tactic used by tobacco companies for 50 years to keep people smoking and buying cigarettes. Okay. So, first of all, let's just be clear about the tobacco industry. And when they were denying the harms, they were denying things like smoking causes lung cancer and emphysema and is highly addictive. Okay? Second of all, nobody, I repeat, nobody on the responsible marijuana legalization advocacy lobby says that marijuana is harmless. Put your straw man away, Sue. Nobody on our side says marijuana is harmless. Less harmful than alcohol? By a long shot. Less harmful than tobacco? by a mile. Less harmful than every goddamn prescription drug I see with a 30-second trailer of side effects that are read to me every night on the evening news. Absolutely. So let me get to what her points are here. Because she's picking on Ethan Nadelman. She's picking on the Drug Policy Alliance because they got a top 10 facts thing. 10 facts about marijuana. And she wants to debunk these. She's trying to debunk these 10 facts. So here we go. DPA's number 3 fact was, claims about increases in marijuana potency are vastly overstated. In addition, potency is not related to risk of dependence or health impacts. Now, she claims in this study that some new high-potency strains, including some medical marijuana blends such as Connie Chung. Anybody ever smoked any Connie Chung?
I heard of that one a couple of years back.
Contain up to 20 times more THC.
Whoa. I need some of that.
Okay, 20 times more THC than traditional marijuana did from the 1970s and early 1980s. Okay, so let's see. Let's see.
So if it was 2%,
put on your math hat.
Well, let's see here. We love math.
All right, so it's 20 times more potent, right? Okay, so looking at the DEA's own statistics from the early 1980s, I see right here that the average potency of seized marijuana in the United States in the early 1980s was somewhere around 4%.
Yeah.
So if you can find me this 80% fucking Connie Chung weed, please send me some.
Yeah, or even just a 40% shit, even 10%,
DPA comes right out and says potency increases are vastly overstated, and she comes back with it's 20 times more potent.
Really?
Thanks for proving our point, Sue.
Yeah, wait, where's her research to back this up?
Well, she's citing a study. The link is there. This is all from Huffington Post. She's got a study that she's citing, right? But come on, 20 times more THC.
Yeah.
Now, she goes on to say that research conducted in the past 5 years has associated marijuana use during pregnancy with anencephaly, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, learning disabilities, and memory impairment in children, as well as depression, aggression, and anxiety in teens. So apparently, if your mom smoked pot while she was pregnant with you, you've got a much greater chance of all these disorders, apparently.
Actually, if they take any kind of stimulants or amphetamines or things that alter normal person's brain chemistry, yes, they do affect the child as well.
And here's what I would like to find out, because this would be a pretty, there's all this yelling and screaming about, pregnancy and, use of marijuana and whether or not it's going to affect the kids. Well, number one, we know tobacco and alcohol use in pregnancy drastically affects the kid. Mm-hmm. But we don't lock up mothers. We don't lock people up. We don't make it illegal.
And what I think is outrageous is that doctors still go ahead and prescribe all these antipsychotics and narcotics for mothers who are in their first couple trimesters, and with the developing child. That's ridiculous to me that they're, oh, well, the FDA says it's okay, so I can just go ahead and, write this up for you as long as you got the money to keep my pockets fat.
And I think an easy way to check this out would be to compare let's compare the ADHD, let's compare all of these supposed harms, let's compare the rate of those in some place like, Jamaica, or, any other population we can find where we have a whole lot of cannabis smoking moms, and compare it to non-cannabis smoking moms. Let's see what we find, because Melanie Dreyer didn't find much difference when she did that comparison to the Jamaican moms. Look, if pot smoking during pregnancy had some severe issue with the outcome of the kid, wouldn't we have seen that effect by now?
Yeah, we'd be seeing a lot more cases of, random conditions induced, by, right after birth, come on.
And yet we see the rates of psychosis and schizophrenia and all these other things. These rates have stayed the same for years and years and years. Let's get to another one here. She brings up that that Drug Policy Alliance says that marijuana use has not been shown to increase risk of cancer. She points to a study that says marijuana use may increase risk of testicular cancer in young men between 15 and 45. Scientists suspect environmental factors are responsible. Men with a history of using marijuana were twice as likely to have subtypes of testicular cancer called non-seminoma and mixed germ cell tumors. These tumors occur in younger men and carry a somewhat worse prognosis than a seminoma subtype. Yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. We are terribly frightened. Yeah. So this is also some bunk. The chances of getting testicular cancer are very low in the first place. Second of all, it's one of the most treatable cancers out there. And third of all, if indeed marijuana smoking once again had this terrible risk of testicular cancers, then around 1979, when 60% of high school seniors reported having used marijuana and 50% were using it annually, wouldn't we have seen a higher rate of testicular cancers among that cohort of men than, say, the same cohort of young men in 1991 or 92 when we saw the lowest rates of high school seniors using marijuana? The facts and the numbers just don't add up. Here's another one. DPA says that marijuana use has not been shown to cause long-term cognitive impairment. And of course, she goes to adolescent pot use leaves lasting mental deficits, developing brains susceptible to lasting damage from exposure to marijuana. This is the old you lose 8 points in IQ if you smoke pot thing. Yeah.
Oh no, I'm getting dumber by the second.
Yeah. And they were challenged. Now, I love this, is that the first person who, the researcher who claimed the 8-point loss in IQ, was then challenged by a researcher who used models to find that socioeconomic status would make a difference. So the original researchers reran their data and came up with the same results. Oh yeah, we can trust the original guys. All right, so look. Does heavy, repeated use of marijuana at the age of 14 or 15 lead you to be dumber than you would have been later in life?
No, that's when I started smoking in the morning and taking physics class in high school.
Well, whether it does or not is irrelevant, because I can show you studies for alcohol use at age 14 to 15 with much more deleterious effect to an adolescent brain. Nobody's talking about legalizing marijuana for adolescents. That same study that they're pointing to showed that use of marijuana after the age of 18 did not lead to any long-term lasting cognitive deficits. We can't have a society that punishes adults for being responsible adults and harming no other adults or children because some children might be harmed if they break the law. That's not the way the society works. Alcohol and tobacco prove that. That's all the time we got here for Hour 2 at Toker Talk Radio. Thanks for joining us here. Check me out on hempbeach.com later tonight. And then coming up at 8 o'clock, we've got A Different View with Jen and Iva. Coming up next, new Viper Hour, Movie Madness with Reefer Madness and commentary from me and Bacon Dan and Iva Redhead. For Brian the Red, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, take care of each other, Tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you